Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Look at Tommy Brady. He's like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
take. When people are like, I hate to say it, but Tom Brady left the Patriots and now he's cool. I'm like, yeah, is he though?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not Mr. Congeniality.
yeah. All right. Okay, let's do this thing. As Vance Joseph would say, we're back. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Every time I start with a cold open, but this is the week one preview part one. This is not going to be a cold open. This is going to be a football is back. We talk about it. You heard the intro that we play every year, Bloom. This is year 16 of the Audible, and football is back. And it feels so good that we are doing the preview shows again for our audience here, Apple Music, Spotify, on YouTube, whatever, however you're taking in the show. Thank you. I just wanted to start off this year's show the same way we do every single year, Bloom, with a thank you to football.
Yeah, it's the people who lay it on the line for us, and that's one of the things that makes football different than all the other sports. It's a total commitment, mind, body, soul, and total risk day to day, week to week for all of these players. It's one of the things that makes the game so intense and compelling. But see, it's like every year, meet you back here. See you next year, same spot. Because in my life right now, this is especially appropriate that football and fantasy football and all the space that we have where we can get immersed in it is a safe place and it's a shelter from all the other things. And all the other things will be there, and we don't have to worry about that. But when we're here, we're together, and it feels good. And it sure feels good to be back.
It feels good to be back, and it feels good to be previewing these games once again with the NFL season kicking off. And it kicks off with an interesting game because certainly it's got the names, certainly it's got the Super Bowl champions. It's not the rematch that we sometimes get, but it's a preview of what can happen in the NFC so long as Dak Prescott stays healthy. It is Dallas, it is Tampa. We're starting on the Dallas side. And for me, Bloom, it always comes back to, is Prescott going to stay healthy? And obviously, if he does, this passing game robust, this passing game best in the league, wherever you want to put it, which means fantasy assets abound for all of your CeeDee Lambs and your Amari Coopers and Dak Prescott himself, of course. Michael Gallup is a flex play in this situation. Against the Buccaneers, it will be tough. Against the Buccaneers, what do we see from Ezekiel Elliott? This is kind of a test game for him. If they can run the ball, obviously we'll open things up for that passing game. So we know the Cowboys have great assets. We know also this is a tough matchup. So how best should fantasy GMs approach it when all you want to do is start your guys on Thursday,
Right.
but it's the Bucks? So start them where?
Yeah, the Tampa victory tour begins. And for Dallas, they're just trying to get credibility. Yet season interrupted last year. What could this team be with Dak Prescott? And this is a good test, although it's Prescott's first meaningful action since his injury because of that shoulder issue. I don't know if the shoulder issue will necessarily affect him, but I think not playing football for a while will affect him whenever you are facing the Tampa defense. Remember, Tampa bringing everybody back, all 22 starters, and you have Zach Martin probably out because of COVID. You also have Lyle Collins probably going to play, but maybe not 100% healthy. Not a great week for that. Who to play? Getting questions already about Zeke because it's Tampa's run defense. Just play him. I can't imagine. If you drafted
Claim as a
James,
running back too, though, right?
right? Well, yes. Let me put it this way. I suppose if you got James Robinson later in your draft, or maybe even Gus Edwards later in your draft, and that's your choice, then I could potentially see benching Zeke for them. But I'm not going to talk anybody out of leaving Zeke in, despite the matchup. Obviously, Cooper, Lamb, you're going to have in the lineup. We're going to watch Tony Pollard's usage just to see if it's starting to creep up, as he looked like he had more juice than Zeke last year. Michael Gallup, could Michael Gallup make this more of a trio? It certainly seemed like they were trying to make it in camp interchangeable. And they're not going to be interchangeable for fantasy, but Gallup was a lot cheaper than Lamb and Cooper. We could learn that maybe was ill-advised. We'll watch the Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin usage. I'm cooled on Blake Jarwin a little bit, but we might get excited about him again because even if he's splitting the snaps with Dalton Schultz, I don't think he's splitting the targets, and he's certainly not splitting the quality of targets. Nothing like 50-50. What he can do with the target and what Schultz can do with the target, Jarwin, much better. But this could also just be a miserable game for the Cowboys, Cease. This could just be a game because it's like the preseason for them, right? The first team offense hasn't even really got to play together, and you're facing Tampa on their victory tour, and it ain't going to get easier for them when their defense is on the field.
Yeah, it's not going to get any easier out there with Tom Brady back in action and Chris Godwin a little bit banged up. Something to watch now. He's been banged up before. He's played through it before. He's played well through it before. So people are trying to make Antonio Brown more of a thing. I happened to be driving around super early this morning, Bloom, and national radio is always funny. And it was like, Antonio Brown's the best receiver on that team. I'm like, oh God. I guess shock jock. It's ass crack and ball sack mayhem in the AM. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about how you use these Buccaneers with Godwin banged up. And notice how I'm focusing on the wide receivers because the running backs are the mess that we expect them to be.
Right, it's a three-way committee. I suppose Ronald Jones is the guy here. I would expect that if they open up a lead in the second half, Jones will be the guy to close it out. Jones will probably get the first call at the goal line, or at the very least, I think he'll have the opportunity to put his stamp on this game. Giovanni Bernard coming in, probably going to play, but has a mild high ankle sprain. Is that an oxymoron? I don't know. You love everybody else in this game, right? You love Brady, you love Evans. If Godwin's not out there, you love Antonio Brown. And if Godwin's not out there with this groin issue that came up this week, it's Tyler Johnson time. Tyler Johnson would get that shot to be the Bruce Arians slot. You could also see a few more snaps for Scotty Miller. Maybe Jalen Darden could figure in, but this is Tyler Johnson's spot. So this could be a big opportunity for your single game DFS slates to put him in there. And of course, Rob Gronkowski is an interesting player here also because O.J. Howard didn't seem like he was 100%. We're going to be watching on the other side of the ball here, see Dan Quinn's defense. Depending on who you ask, 5 starters, maybe more new starters in this defense. So they're transitioning to a new scheme, some new faces. Sounds to me like this is just going to be 7-on-7 kind of practice against air for this Bucs offense. Again, it could just be a miserable game. By the time the live show starts at halftime, Cease, the game could be over.
The game could be done, and you will be talking about it on the live show, which of course is Thursday night around halftime way. So we are back. It's regular season form, and of course Dallas and Tampa kicking things off with that kickoff special. As we get to the games on Sunday, it's Philadelphia and it's Atlanta. And Philadelphia, to me, Bloom, just comes down to trust. Which one of the Eagles are you going to trust? I know there's a lot of Pepto picks. Is that what we decided to call them? Pepto picks, right? Mm-hmm. With the Eagles, there's Pepto picks that abound with this team. So I'll be watching and I'll be waiting if I have a lot of Eagles. So let's break this down because the matchup is pretty juicy against Atlanta with the defense trying to prove that they can do anything.
Right. A lot of transition for both of these teams in the offseason. Philadelphia, you have Nick Sirianni, new coach, a new quarterback, kind of reluctantly with Jalen Hurts, and they're going to face this Dean Pease defense. On the Atlanta side in general, we're going to wonder how much was the coaching holding this whole team back as Arthur Smith brings his folks in, and we'll see if Atlanta's defense can be more effective here, and maybe they might not need to be more effective depending on the version of Jalen Hurts we get. Real fascinating aside here, Cease. The history of Jalen Hurts in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is super fascinating, right? Because what's the first time it's Tua Tagovailoa coming in to replace him in the national championship.
In the national title game. That was the first game in there? Is that right?
Between Alabama and Georgia.
Okay.
And then the second game, Tua was replaced by Hurts. And Hurts led Alabama to a comeback win against Georgia. So he's revisiting a place where there's been some pretty intense swings in his career. Not that optimistic. I kind of want to see Hurts and see him in the offense before I would totally trust him. I don't know who the other options would be at quarterback, but I could understand if you took Hurts benching him this week. If you like your second quarterback and you like your second quarterback's matchup, we're going to watch Miles Sanders' usage. You're probably going to play him no matter what, but we want to see how much Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell do. This is going to be an offense that throws to the running backs a lot. So that could be good for Sanders, but also could be not as good for him if Scott and Gainwell, who are both excellent receiving backs, get more work in the offense because of that. The receivers, the matchup's good. I still want to see Jalen Reagor do something consistently. Devontae Smith didn't really pop in the preseason when he got out there. The guy that has all the buzz is Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins has really owned camp and been the most outstanding receiver for the Eagles this summer. You're looking for a deep DFS play. You're looking for a deep play, or at least somebody to make sure. See, so we're always thinking week 2 waiver wire, right? Who's going to be on the week 2 waiver wire? Quez Watkins could absolutely assert himself here. Zach Ertz still there, still a big part of the offense, maybe even a bigger part of the offense than Dallas Goedert. So you might want to stay away from your Eagles tight ends. Although if you have confidence in Hurts in the offense, maybe break ties and all this offense in favor of putting your Eagles in the lineup. A lot of questions here, and a lot of questions. Again, 2 teams with a lot of transition since the last time we saw them.
2 teams with transition, and Atlanta with plenty of transition. No Julio Jones. Now, we've seen that before, Bloom, usually just from injury, but now with more Arthur Smith. Now with Arthur Smith, period. So while I'm passing the Pepto when it comes to the Eagles, I'm passing a cold pop when I'm coming to the Falcons because I really enjoy what Arthur Smith can bring to the field for these guys in terms of the direction of this offense. How about you? And again, we're going to look at Mike Davis here. We're going to look at different receivers because Julio is long gone. Well, it means opportunity for these guys in a system that can be explosive.
See, it's one of the things we're going to tease apart, comb through, is how each team handled this preseason, this abbreviated preseason, the new 3-game preseason, and how prepared the team is or how prepared their opponents are. Because you would think with a new offense, Arthur Smith would want to have some live reps with these guys together. Barely any. But what do you get? You get the element of surprise. There's no film, right? I mean, you can look back at the Arthur Smith offense in Tennessee, but these are different elements. So interesting stuff in the backfield here. You might like Matt Ryan here. Interesting stuff in the backfield. Looks like Cordell Patterson is the number 2 running back. Wayne Gallman replacing Quadric Olison is the number 3. But I think that it's safe to put Mike Davis in here. The Eagles have a decent run defense as far as opportunities at the goal line. Of course, you're going to play Calvin Ridley, probably see some Darius Slay in this game. We're going to watch and see how Olamide Zaccheaus and Russell Gage are used, who's going to play more outside, who's going to get more of Matt Ryan's attention. That's interesting, but all eyes on Kyle Pitts. All eyes on Kyle Pitts. Because if you're talking about the element of surprise, what did we hear all summer, Cease? There's no place that he's in 2 snaps in a row in this formation. Lots of pre-snap motion. The Eagles are going to have to process this in real time. They don't have plays that they've been preparing for. When Kyle Pitts does this before the snap, it probably means they're going to run this play.
They don't even have anyone that can practice what Pitts can do.
Right. So this, especially for DFS folks, this is the big ta-da game. Because they're going to have to they're going to have to improvise, basically. And I think that this is the classic, like if one of us got in a baseball reference coming, Cease, if one of us got in the box against an MLB pitcher, we would see, like, you just have to guess. You just have to pick a spot and hope that you guess the right pitch and the right spot. That's the only chance you have. That's kind of how the Eagles defense is going to be against Kyle Pitts. And it could be just a massive, massive debut for him because the Eagles don't really have any way to prepare for what Arthur Smith and this coaching staff, who have been very focused on preparing the offense around Kyle Pitts. Or maybe I just have googly pink, seeing everything with my rose-colored glasses every time I think about Pitts.
Well, here's what says a lot about both of us, Bloom. You used a baseball reference. I would have used a battleship reference.
Oh,
like
you sunk my battleship.
Right. That ain't no guess. That's what's going to be.
Yeah.
Waterboy references will always happen on this show. And Pittsburgh and Buffalo, it's not going to be a good day for Pittsburgh. sorry. My best friend's a Bills fan. He's like, what do you want to bet? I'm like, nothing.
Nothing.
Why? Why would I put money on the Steelers or cold pops or coffee or whatever the hell I got to say? And gambling's now going to be part of the ticker on NFL. We're old enough, and I was talking to someone. Actually, I was talking to Mike Pritchard, who works for Visson now out there in Vegas. And I was like, can you believe we're in a day where there's going to be a Vegas ticker on NFL games? So there you go. There you have it. So yeah, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Now, my Najee Harris love could meet your Kyle Pitts love, Bloom. I don't think it could exceed your Kyle Pitts love. But yes, in all those leagues that I drafted Harris at the late first round, you bet your ass I'm starting him. Now, he better get the touches, and they better keep the ball out of Ben's hands. This is a broken Ben Roethlisberger. What can we expect? What little should we expect for all of the Steelers' assets this week in this matchup against a Buffalo team that wants to, one, go undefeated? What are they going to be, 13-4 at the end of the year, right? I mean, Buffalo's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. This has the chance to be a bad day for the Steelers, but with a guy like Najee Harris, yeah, you're winning, you're losing, winning big, losing big, whatever, Harris will be involved.
Yeah, the classic Steelers workhorse who is going to get all the work, including in the passing game. So you're fine with Harris. Buffalo, much like like Tampa Bay, has returned everybody. And their mission this year is to get back to the AFC title game and erase the memory of the poor performance they had. They went out like chumps. After everything that had built in terms of anticipation, they went out like chumps in the AFC title game. They were scared. They coached scared. They played scared. And this is that classic script where you build from that, and the next year you're ready. And you start out with Pittsburgh. They beat Pittsburgh like 26-15. It was a game when they pulled away in the second half last year. It was when the Steelers were starting to get worn down a little bit. So this is Ben Roethlisberger, as fresh as he's going to be. I'm not going to play him, though. The potentially weak spot in the Buffalo defense. You could still see decent games out of Juju, out of Deontay Johnson. I would hope, for Buffalo's sake, that Tre'Davious White is on Chase Claypool, so maybe not as much of a Chase Claypool game. We see Pat Freiermuth, the second-round pick, probably splitting the tight end targets with Ebron. It could be even a better play if you have to play a Steelers tight end to play the rookie. But this one could be bad, Cease, because at the center of all this is the offensive line, which kinda gelled, kinda came together. They, I think, have 5 starters they've depended on here. But, you have Ed Oliver, you have Gregory Rousseau, the first-round pick, who looked really good in the preseason. You have some players that are going to wreak havoc with the Steelers' offense. You also have the Steelers' offense doing more of whatever Matt Canada installed to help the running game, hopefully more motion. They are going to try to establish the run. That could be frustrating. That could be a lot of 3rd and 7s. Not exactly a situation that you want to put Ben Roethlisberger in. So like you, Cease, I am preparing for the worst. And I can't even say I'm hoping for the best. I'll be watching other games instead of hoping for the best.
Yeah, I'll be waiting for this one to be over because it should be a big day for Buffalo. You said 26 points last time out. They might have that at halftime. And they might this could be one of those Peyton Manning, Baltimore Ravens week 1 performances for Josh Allen, 7 touchdowns, something stupid like that. And with Josh, it would be like 5 passing and 2 rushing, right? But it could be a monster day. And the Steelers have done quite a bit of work to their defense, keep things up. What's the TJ Watt stuff?
The hold in.
Well, yeah, it's another one of these this is the way, by the way, as I quote Mandalorian, like, this is what players are doing now, and they're just holding in. So, okay, so we can talk about that and go over the assets. The one asset or the one area of the Bills that might confuse or confound or basically just frustrate fantasy jams, I could replay this part every week. It's the running backs. Well, I could replay this part every week till Zach Moss gets hurt again. But either way, like Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, both of them flex plays to me, and whoever you got, you throw them in as your third guy, unless you have better flex options, which you should. But this will continue to frustrate. Josh Allen will continue to bring joy to your life as a fantasy GM.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the Steelers, and he didn't have a massive game against the Steelers. He had 3 for a couple touchdowns, 3 for a little over 200 yards. So it is still a pretty good Steelers defense. Remember, they're going to have Devin Bush back. They added Joe Schobert. They stole Schobert, really.
They did, yeah.
They really did. And that was a trade. See, so I think if Jacksonville had just waited a week, they would have got a lot more for Schobert. So, and the Steelers also bring in Akello Witherspoon. Probably not going to start right away, but give them some experience and depth at cornerback. There is going to be a weak spot at cornerback whenever they're in the nickel package. Maybe that's Cole Beasley's music, depending on who is in the slot. Stephon Diggs coming off of a knee issue. You're still going to play Stephon Diggs, but there's a little bit of mystery about how his knee was doing. Like you said, the backfield is a big question. Singletary and Moss both, I think, did what the team wanted to see to make sure they didn't have to make a big move at running back. But it's still going to be a committee, still going to be an offense that runs through Josh Allen. Going to watch Emmanuel Sanders and that foot issue. That could be the opening for Gabriel Davis to have a big breakout season if Sanders' foot issues are going to limit him. So we want to see how he comes through there. Also, the team let Jacob Hollister go. Now, perhaps, see, teams like to play these games at cut down time, right? Because I think that they might have looked at Hollister as a player that they could bring back, move some things around, and Jacksonville got him. So is it an endorsement of Dawson Knox that they let Jacob Hollister go? I'm not 100% sure, but I do think Knox is going to get that opportunity to show that he deserves that opportunity. He has to stay healthy. He has to make plays. He's inconsistent. So he's somebody that we're going to watch here. Stephon Tuitt, by the way, on IR. That was another one of those injuries like the DeCastro injury cease. Like no one was talking about it. He just wasn't out there every day. And then one day he was just on IR.
Right.
So again, but the Steelers, one thing they did do, in addition to Schobert, they bring in Melvin Ingram. So the front seven's going to be good. The front seven's going to be no problem this year. It's just Terrell Edmonds always has a target on his back. And I guess James Pierre, whoever the third corner is going to be, is going to have a target on their back. We'll see what Josh Allen does in a season where a lot of people are asking, can he possibly get better?
Josh Allen's going to eat. And by the way, Dawson Knox on his final chance. Bloom in a make or break season. Like, hey, it's all on you. Isn't that the way? Minnesota in Cincinnati is the next game up. And with Minnesota, it's, of course, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. You feel confidence there, Bloom. You feel confidence with Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins, but the matchup is there. And you're wondering, okay, Clint Kubiak, rinse, repeat. It's the same thing, right? Just run the system as is. So there seems to be a governor on this offense. Assets you can all be excited about. A matchup that is, was worthy of any other matchup in the league. And then Kirk Cousins is there. So, you can get super excited. I got all these Vikings. What a great matchup. I could start them. And, yes, they're going to do great things. But imagine if they were a little better from their quarterback.
Yeah, Cousins is going to run this offense true to its concepts. If you expect Minnesota to control this game, it could be a massive Dalvin Cook game. Cincinnati's going to be without Trey Waynes, I think. So between Thielen and Jefferson, there's probably somebody that's going to go off. The Bengals defense, it's not necessarily one of the worst in the league, but not a shutdown defense. And this Minnesota
They've
offense,
spent some money for sure.
They have. And, DJ Reader can stop the run, and they bring in Trey Hendrickson, hopefully to boost the pass rush after Carl Lawson went to the Jets. That's sad for the Jets. But I think you would expect a successful day for the Minnesota offense. You certainly expect a successful day for Jefferson, Thielen, and Cook. And because Irv Smith is basically out for the year, they did give up a fourth for Herndon, swap a fourth for a sixth, but still a fourth. So they must like what Herndon can do, but he's got to get up to speed in this offense. So it could be Tyler Conklin. If you're looking for a deep tight end, watch his practice status coming off of a hamstring, but I know he returned to practice last week. And really, you see, if you're breaking down the Minnesota side, the key to understanding it is the Cincinnati side, because this is going to be that first game back for Joe Burrow. And if it's a knock off the rust kind of game, if it's okay, I took my first big hit, okay, I scrambled and trusted my knee at full speed, but it's not a good game for him. It's just a game to breathe a sigh of relief that he's okay with live bullets out there, then it's a Dalvin Cook game. Then it's a game that Minnesota should control. Now, if you think that Burrow is going to actually come out and look better than expected after a lot of worry about how quickly he'll be back to old form, then this could be a game where Cousins has to throw more of a Jefferson, Cousins, Thielen game. But all eyes will be on Joe Burrow for this one.
Well, there are two people, Burrow, as you mentioned, and then I'll go back to Clint Kubiak, because is he going to be aggressive? when they have this team down, is he going to go for the throat, or is he going to do the Shanahan Kubiak thing? And Shanahan would, Mike specifically, he would go for the throat. Gary with the kick drum, like Gary was just like, nah, so to me, it's a Cook day. What to expect from Joe Burrow? Just stay healthy, take that hit, slide, Bobo slide, whatever. And I know a lot of people are mixing. I got a Mixon Najee question this morning, which made me laugh because I was like, it's always going to be Najee. But that's just me. I'm crazy about that. Not crazy about this Bengals side of things, regardless of the talent. Bloom, again, it's just one of those. I want to observe Cincinnati before I trust Cincinnati, even those trustworthy targets that Burrow has to throw to.
And for fantasy, I think we can trust Boyd and Higgins. Okay. Minnesota's corners don't worry me at all. And even if it's a bad game for Burrow, I almost see the worse it is for Burrow, the better it'll be for Boyd, at least in PPR leagues. And Higgins, of course, with a lot of offseason and preseason hype about him being maybe this year's DK Metcalf. A terrific rookie year leads to, we didn't even realize how good he's going to be in his second year. Jamar Chase, as Matthew Bingham brings up in the chat room, a little more trust is not a word we have there. A little more worry about him as he's had a lot of problems with the drops. And he's a confident player, obviously. But we talk about confidence all the time, though. And it hasn't been there for him in camp. It hasn't been there for him in the preseason. And he could be brought along slowly if he's not showing that he's put that behind him. Now, he could also be like Justin Jefferson and come off of a summer that wasn't necessarily outstanding and by week 3 or week 4 be dominating. So that we're not going to play Jamar Chase in this one. We're going to be watching what he's doing closely. Mixon, I think you just got to play because he's going to get so much work. Even if it's a game where they're behind by 2 or 3 touchdowns, I think it's still Mixon. Maybe they'll ease Chris Evans, the 6th-round pick, in on third downs. But it is a Mixon game. They're not really worried about the Vikings defense. They do get Donnell Hunter back. Everson Griffin is also back. But this isn't going to be a shutdown defense like it's been in the past. Watch C.J. Uzoma coming back from his Achilles, maybe the primary receiving tight end here. So just questions. I mean, I've got my man Eric Stoner in the back of my head saying, what has Zach Taylor done? What has the Bengals done? Why do we think the Bengals offense is even going to be in the top half of the league?
Right.
We need to see it before we can believe it.
It was one of those, remember when this was a thing? What? Sean McVay? You're hired.
Right.
And again, all due respect to Taylor. But it's one of we've got some coaches who have this sort of pass. Even McVay himself, where's Matt Waldman, right? Where it's like you have this pass for being this wizard. And it's like, well, we can see it's the man behind the curtain, right? So let's see what they can do differently this season. San Francisco and Detroit. Wonderful if you're a 49ers fan. Not as much if you're a Lions fan. But if you're a 49ers fan, and I need to drink more of my tea. But if you're a 49ers fan, then you go, all right, what are we going to see? Kyle Shanahan's talked about using both quarterbacks. We'll see. We'll see the excitement. I mean, it's going to be the Lions. If you ever want to experiment with something, week 1, you want to show the rest of the league something they have to prepare for with a Trey Lance package, sure. The running backs are going to confound you. There will be a hot guy. Is it just Mostert week 1? Trust him and go. Obviously, you look at Debo and Ayuk and the trust level with George Kittle. So lots to like here, Bloom. I just want to know how much experimenting Kyle Shanahan is going to do.
Yeah, it's a tune-up game, right? This is another practice. So we may see some Trey Lance sprinkled in. You don't like Garoppolo as a play because they're not going to need to use him that much. Backfield roles, Raheem Mostert. If you aren't playing Mostert this week, when are you going to play him? Still going to be capped at 15 to 18 touches. There could be a lot of touches out there for Trey Sermon. So you break ties. What the heck, Flex? It's back, Cease.
I love it.
And let's watch JaMychal Hasty. He made this team over Wayne Gallman. Okay, they only have 3 running backs right now. So, we could be talking about JaMychal Hasty real quick on the waiver wire show because it's this offense, especially when Trey Lance is out there. Brandon Ayuk a little banged up, I think a hamstring. So maybe that gives you a little more nudge to play Debo Samuel in this game. Of course, you're going to play George Kittle. You just hope that these guys get some points before the game gets out of hand. because this one's easy, Cease. It should be a tune-up. It should be a cakewalk. If it's not, it brings up some questions about San Francisco. Detroit, as has been since Brad Holmes took over, Cease, they just want to be competitive. They just want to look credible out there, especially in this matchup.
And, they want to be intimidating and they want to bully you. It's like they don't have anything.
Right.
They don't have anything to bully you with. And what happens to a bully when you get punched and punched again? They're not so bullyish. And by the way, Kyle Shanahan will be that guy. Oh, you're up by 30 and Kyle's still going for it? Yeah, he will be that guy. So the Detroit side of things, they might have to go to catch-up mode with Jared Goff. And they might have to go to catch-up mode in the first quarter. So this could be an out-and-out disaster. They don't have wide receivers that are of note. We can talk about Cephas or whoever you want to talk about. I'll talk about Trinity Benson, whatever. So there's some interesting assets from like a dynasty perspective, but this is Jared Goff potentially in catch-up mode against the 49ers. I don't like any of this. No. Swift banged up. I don't like any of this for the Detroit side.
No. We'll see what kind of offense we get from Anthony Lynn here, but Swift banged up. Maybe Jamal Williams has that what the heck flex value here. Certainly if it's a game where it gets out of hand, why are you going to keep playing Swift if his groin's been bulky? Let him, maybe he comes out and has his anticipated role while the game's still competitive. But after that, see some Jamar Jefferson, Godwin Igwebuike, who made the team. Switch from safety. Remember, who was it, Cease? Hastings for the, am I remembering that correctly? That was the supplemental draft guy for the Texans that was switched from defensive back to running back for 4 games, maybe Georgia Tech. God, I come back.
That wasn't Hollins, was it?
Halling, I don't know.
Was it Tony Hollins?
Yeah, something like that. See, our brains. I shouldn't even try. See, so it used to be a hallmark of the show to go deep and say, "Look, we remember this from 15 years ago." The Audible's old enough to drive now, by the way, so we don't need to do anything anymore. The Audible has its driver's license.
Right.
It needs
Take
it right
me
now.
to the store.
Yeah, it's so funny. But the point is, I just wanted to say congratulations to Igwebuike, who made it after switching from safety to running back. Because we don't have much to talk about here. TJ Hawkinson. You're going to play TJ Hawkinson.
Sure.
Tyrell Williams is a deep sleeper here. Khalif Raymond, glad to see him get his due. Amon-Ra St. Brown, gets in the slot. Maybe he'll have a lot of catches. Maybe we'll see St. Brown play a Cooper Kupp kind of role where even if he's not on the field for full-time snaps, he's running a lot of routes and getting a lot of targets from Jared Goff, who's not the most imaginative or bold passer downfield. Yeah, it's tough. I think all 4 Detroit teams, I'm up here in the Michigan-Detroit area. Love Detroit, by the way. Spent some time in Dearborn yesterday. Oh, what a treasure. What an absolute treasure. Went to Belle Isle. I love Detroit. But I think all 4 of their teams are rebuilding right now. So maybe Pittsburgh is going to be there in a few years too.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. Let's move on from that and go to Arizona, Tennessee. Much more exciting football here. And perhaps one of the games of the morning that you'll be watching. Red Zone. Broncos are on the road and it's an afternoon game, but Red Zone all day. This game may be the one that you watch if you're not watching Red Zone. So Arizona side of things, will they even care to run the ball? That's my question, Bloom, because we already know through the air what they can do if they can ever use Christian Kirk the right way and blah, blah, blah with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, everybody's starting him. But the mystery with Arizona is, what would they do with the running backs? Will they even care about that in week 1?
This is your shootout. I think it has the highest over-under of any game in week 1. So if you like that for your DFS lineups or otherwise to break ties when you set your lineups, and it makes sense, right? Because Tennessee's not known for their defense. Arizona, we'll see. They added J.J. Watt. They have now Zaven Collins to match up with, to pair up with Isaiah Simmons. We look at the Tennessee side. They did get Bud Dupree. We'll see how he is coming off of his ACL. They did add Janoris Jenkins in the secondary, but they're going to face an Arizona offense that has Rodney Hudson now as the key to that line in the pivot, the keystone, if you will. You added AJ Green, who at least Louis Riddick, and see, Louis Riddick is, I don't ever just dismiss what Louis Riddick says.
Never.
He said, hey, AJ Green's looking like 2015 AJ Green. I don't know about that. That would be quite a revelation. But you got Rondale Moore. Of course, you still have Christian Kirk. You still have DeAndre Hopkins. So Kyler Murray, and see, I want to just put this out there because I was talking about this when I did my spot with Joey Holka on Monday. Kyler Murray should be mentioned close to, if not in the same breath, with Michael Vick. True or false?
True.
Yeah. He's the best athlete on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In most games, he's the best athlete on the field.
And you can't scheme for that. No matter what you can do, he can make something happen.
Right. And this is a Tennessee defense that even the things you can scheme for, they don't do a great job with. Also, this is Kyler Murray's first full offseason concentrating on football, because last year's offseason wasn't even really an offseason, and he just decided 2.5 years ago to play football full time. He doesn't really, you watch him as a passer, he doesn't really have a process. And he's still doing everything he's doing. Again, Michael Vick, right? So even just incremental improvements from Murray, especially now that he has with guys he can trust in Green and an element in Rondale Moore that is dynamic, you just give him a little more of an edge with how he meshes with play calls and understands how the play call sets him up for success, and give him some better players on the other side of his passes. This could be, Kyler Murray could lap the field. And against Tennessee in this game, he probably should. In your DFS lineups, I would be trying to get him in. And I just think that this could be a game where everyone realizes, yeah, Kyler Murray is on the level of Michael Vick as far as how his athleticism tilts the field. And then if you want to get cute and throw in a Green or a Moore, why not? Chase Edmonds in PPR, you're looking at maybe James Conner. See, this could be a game where James Conner has 8 carries and 2 touchdowns, right? Because of the scoring.
Right. They get down to the goal line and then boom, plug it in with Conner.
So Conner is a what the heck flex here. And again, this is going to be a game, I think, that is going to make you excited. I would be trying to put together DFS lineups with like 5 players in this game, because I think you could see how it could turn into a 4-alarm fantasy fire right away.
And somebody like Conner could hit for you. Somebody like Green obviously could hit for you. And we all know that fresh starts can be a good thing, maybe a great thing. Maybe not 2015 AJ Green, but if Louis Riddick is saying it, we're going to be listening. On the flip side of that, how valuable was Arthur Smith to what the Titans do? Now, the assets that you know and love, and A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, yes, you're starting all those. This is a Vance Joseph defense with what? Street free agents at corner? Like, right. I mean, yeah, you're going to start these guys. Julio, what are you going to see there from Julio? And how do the Titans look again? Sans Arthur Smith in this matchup, they could look pretty damn good.
Oh, they could look very good. And again, as you laid out, Cease, Arizona's going to try to hide their cornerbacks. You're going to throw some blitzes. The thing about having Simmons and Collins, and you have J.J. Watt. So you have J.J. Watt. Chandler Jones is back after missing most of last year. So it's up to Vance Joseph. If Vance Joseph can scheme some things to really throw Ryan Tannehill off, and Arthur Smith's gone, Todd Downing's making the play calls, I don't think that's much of a change. They haven't settled on a right tackle. That's not good, right, going into week 1. So there's a spot for Vance Joseph to attack. And otherwise, you want to send blitzes. You want to do things that force Ryan Tannehill to think for a second. Because if he has time to sit back there, and it's A.J. Brown and Julio Jones against these corners, problemos. And if you decide to have some deep safety help, well, then just hand it off to Derrick Henry. Hand it off to Derrick Henry. Hand it off to Derrick Henry. Again, this could be a game that has a lot of points scored. Julio Jones is as healthy as he's going to be all year. So, you know, DFS, maybe you look at him, or otherwise, if you have him, you're going to play him. This matchup is fantastic. Also, remember, by the way, Tennessee, for the second year in a row, has gone through a big COVID drama outbreak on the team. Now, last year, when they finally got to play again, they were great. We thought, oh, haven't been able to practice. It's all disjointed. They were great. So I think this team is used to us against the world. Remember Anthony Ferkser, if you have to dig deep for a tight end here, because we expect a lot of scoring in this game. And this is a fantasy special season, because we can look at the rest of the slate, and there are going to be some ugly games. This one's going to be very pretty for fantasy football.
A fantasy bonanza. Maybe not an ugly game, but Seattle, Indianapolis doesn't have the excitement of Arizona, Tennessee. But the excitement, if it resides somewhere, it's with Russell Wilson running the show, as we've talked about his last dance in Seattle, potentially. Maybe they still patch things up, whatever. Some couples stay together longer than you think, right, Bloom? You're like, there's trouble there. And then they stay together. You're like, meh, hey, they figured it out, right? So with Russell Wilson, you're like, okay, I'm excited to see what he can do running everything. Once again, rinse, repeat, DK, rinse, repeat, Lockett, rinse, repeat, Seattle. Some running back will get banged up. It'll be Chris Carson. He'll look good until he's hurt. We kind of already know the story of what's going to happen with Seattle.
Do we, though? Well, does Indy? Because the thing is, you have this new Shane Waldron offense, and it's going to disguise run versus pass. It's going to be up tempo. It's going to have a lot of those McVay elements. So, okay, you can watch the Rams offense. Oh, no. Watch the Rams offense. What would John McVay be able to do if he had Russell Wilson? What would that? I mean, you're going to get to see it, preview.
He'd have someone that knew the playbook.
Right, right. Russell Wilson in an offense that gives him advantages before the snap. Oh, my. Oh, my. And Indy's one of those defenses that looks good against bad quarterbacks and bad against good quarterbacks. So I think this is another element of surprise game. I think this is a game where build a few DFS lineups that go heavy on your Seattle stacks. Including Gerald Everett. And of course, again, that's a deeper tight end to put in there. But of course, you're going to play Lockett and you're going to play Metcalf and you're going to play Carson. And then we're going to see how it sorts out with Collins and Penny and Dallas. I think 5 running backs on the roster. Homer made it too. To see how that sorts out. Carson's the one guy to play there. But Cecil, I think we could return to last year. First half of the year, Seattle offense was about as good as any offense in the league for creating fantasy value. I think after week 1, at least, it's going to look that way. We'll see if the league can catch up. But again, super excited to see Russell Wilson actually with some competent play design and play calls.
Is D. Eskridge going to play? I like that he changed his name to D. So, like, if we're talking what the heck flex, with that speed, it could take one play.
Right. And also because the defense is going to be thinking, because what do you have out there? Like Xavier Rhodes. I mean, you have a good slot corner, but I think that there's vulnerabilities, and it's Russell Wilson. So even when you think you got him, you don't got him. So again, I'm just excited. Yes, to all Seahawks this week.
We got him. Oh crap, we don't got him. No. Yeah, that'll happen. Indianapolis side. Oh. Next. I don't know. Like, it's Indiana. There's so much circling around this team, Bloom. I could pick one of 1,000 topics to start with.
You're going to play Jonathan Taylor because you just are. Seattle's had some trouble stopping the run in the past. Carson Wentz should play. Not sure how he's going to look. Maybe a 2-quarterback play because of the potential for a shootout here. Wide receiver without T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal are going to get chances. Don't forget Mike Strawn, who had a terrific summer, the rookie. But which one? I don't know. I guess maybe Campbell for the deep ball. Pittman maybe would get more targets, but you also have Mo Cox. You also have Kylan Granson, the rookie that they love so much. Didn't do anything in the preseason, but still had some practice reports that people were excited about. What are they going to do with him in the Trey Burton role? You still have Jack Doyle. So you also, by the way, have left tackle Julian Davenport. So that's a spot that Seattle's going to try to attack for sure, put some pressure on Wentz. This could be a game, Cease, where we see, because remember, the Colts, another one, new quarterback, but this team hasn't got to create chemistry. He did return to practice, but still, you didn't have a full camp in preseason with Carson Wentz, your new quarterback, meshing with everybody. He does know the Frank Reich style and concepts and offense pretty well. It's just a wide range of possibilities for Indy, and not a great draw in week 1 to have to face Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and I know Carson Wentz made some family decisions. He's going to make some business decisions on Sunday called self-sack. Yep. If you've mastered that art, Carson, it would help you greatly. Just don't hurt your foot when you do that. Final game we're going to talk about in part 1 of the week 1 preview here on the Audible. It is the Chargers against Washington. A lot of excitement in this one. A lot of interest, intrigue. What does Justin Herbert do for an encore in year 2, of course, with Keenan Allen? I heard maybe once or twice during the offseason that Mike Williams is playing the X. So, okay. Austin Eckler, all these great Chargers assets that you're excited about, Bloom. What are you expecting from them in week 1?
Oh, it's exciting. There's so much excitement here. This is maybe the most exciting game in the sense of all the reveals. The Brandon Staley Chargers, Justin Herbert with a good offensive line. That's fun. Ryan Fitzpatrick on the other side. Just excited to see how these teams match up. Excited to see how these teams look. I think both of these teams are good sleeper Super Bowl picks. Don't know what the odds are. Haven't looked at it, but they're teams that you could see if everything comes together, making a nice little run here. Again, Justin Herbert, you're going to play him. You drafted him to play him. Washington's defense does have that tough pass rush, that tough front seven, but there's still some players that you can pick on in the secondary, and you can certainly pick on them with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, and Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer, we talked about at length on the couch with Dwayne McFarland yesterday. And here's your number 3 receiver. See, so we saw big plays from the number 3 receiver in this offense last year, Tyron Johnson, Jalen Guyton. I think that Palmer is going to be somebody who, after coming off of a good summer, is maybe going to come out of the gate right away hot. You also have in this the question about who's going to be the primary receiver, because remember, Lombardi said, the new offensive coordinator, oh, what, Mike Williams. I put a lot of money on Mike Williams having big numbers this year. He's that Michael Thomas role.
He's the X.
Right. But as Dwayne pointed out on the couch yesterday, Keenan Allen's game actually maps to Michael Thomas's game as far as where he wins on the field and what he adds to an offense. Either way, you're excited to have Keenan Allen for this one. What I'm going to be watching also, Cease, you know how we love those deep sleeper tight ends. Jared Cook, what has he got left? Is it good? Can he stay healthy? Because here's Donald Parham, XFL star, had a terrific summer. And see, this is one of those situations where even without an injury to Cook, even without Cook's typical inconsistency, don't remind Saints fans of that fumble against the Bucs last year. Parham could just overtake him. Parham could be so good to overtake him right away. It's week 2 waiver wire wonders, potentially. Donald Parham. I think that Washington is a defense that you want to attack the middle of the field with Allen, maybe Jared Cook, but I think Donald Parham could steal the show.
And it's one of those guys, even before week 1 begins, Bloom, that you'll go to your league website and see, like, can I still get him? Can I get him? It's like everyone that tried to do that with Tony Jones and Feslo G and found out, no. Cecil Lammey's got him. That's right. Although I don't have Parm. Anyway, let's wrap it up with a talk about Washington. And it's Fitzmagic for a while. Who knows how long it lasts, but it's there. Antonio Gibson is magic in my heart, Bloom. Mm-hmm. So I'm obviously starting him in all my leagues. Everyone else should as well. Terry McLaurin, you're looking at Curtis Samuel going, how healthy are you?
Right.
Like, I know Ron Rivera's confident, but okay, that's fine. We haven't seen Curtis Samuel. So what's that going to look like with Fitzmagic in week 1?
This is fun because it's Fitzmagic, and we know the quarterback play is going to be better than last year for Washington. So what does that unlock on this offense? And for Scott Turner, maybe we could be looking at him as a rising star among play callers, offensive coordinators, now that he has a real quarterback, but also he's facing Brandon Staley. See, what was the hallmark of the Brandon Staley defense with the Rams?
Pressure.
Deception. Pressure.
Swarming.
Pressure and deception. Right. So this is a good example where Sean McVay, even though we could have a whole show debating Sean McVay, he learned from the Super Bowl loss. And what he learned was it's really hard whenever you have an offense that is hinging off of play calls, execution, whenever the pre-snap read is one thing, but then what the quarterback's looking at after the ball snapped is something totally different. And we would expect, because remember, the Chargers, they got a healthy Derwin James. Can you believe it? Some of the things I saw about Staley and the install of this defense in the offseason, like Kenneth Murray is going to be allowed to just chase, seek, and destroy instead of having to think. So how does that then cascade through this whole defense where you're actually deploying players to do what they do well? And you're arranging them and using them in a way to create confusion for the quarterback. Remember, Brandon Staley was a quarterback in college. So he understands how to create confusion for a quarterback. So this is going to be really interesting because, see, you talk about Fitzpatrick, how long is it going to last, the turnover fests, because Fitzpatrick is not a dude that's going to shrink. He's not a dude that's going to turtle if the first time he does something, he's like, whoa, I didn't expect that guy to be there, and the ball's like picked and returned for a touchdown. It's not like he's going to go out the next drive and say, oh, I have to be cautious now.
Right.
That's not the way he plays football. So this could be a game where Brandon Staley gets the drop on Fitzpatrick, induces him into mistakes, and already starts the talk of when's Taylor Heineke going to be ready. But still, you're going to play Gibson. Isn't it great that Jarrett Patterson made this team, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy. You're still going to play Terry McLaurin. You're still probably going to play Logan Thomas. Love seeing him get that extension during the summer. Like you said with Curtis Samuel, we're not sure how healthy he is. Maybe De'Ami Brown could be a week 2 waiver wire wonder. He will go after the deep ball. So he and Fitzpatrick could riff really well. And all the way, we already know the way that Fitzpatrick and Adam Humphries riff. And maybe they will rip some plays. It could be easily see. I could see Humphries with like 8 for 70 in this game, because I think that's one of those things that where if Staley is confusing Fitzpatrick, then he knows he's going to be able to have Humphries for 7 yards on every play. Just
Right.
he knows where he's going to sit down.
7 for 70. It's an alliteration game coming.
Exactly. I love it. So this is a really exciting game, and I think that again, I've said this multiple times during the summer. I'm very excited about what Brandon Staley's going to do with this team. I recommend people look up the 2-minute clip or so of him at practice, see how he engages with the players, see his energy, see what he's creating. I think Chargers fans can get excited for real this time.
Get excited that week 1 is here, and get excited for the Audible, the previews. We are back, of course. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. And make sure to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thank you, Sasha, and thank you guys for watching. If you love the show, support the show. A couple ways you can do that. Fan Up. Go get that app that everyone's talking about. Their signups for Fan Up is Thursday. It's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to check out Fan Up. Make sure to check out footballguys.com. Sign up for our free daily newsletter. Sign up for subscription to footballguys.com. And we certainly appreciate everyone that's done that to help support the show. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Be back tomorrow morning with part 2, everyone. Enjoy it. Football is back. And in my best Vance Joseph voice, we're back. He's Sig. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.